Hello aspirants, my name is Madhusudan Reddy and I'm the Faculty of Geography at the IIAShub. At the end of this video, there is a big announcement that we are going to make. Please make sure to watch this video till the end. Reading these newspapers near about 2 hours to 3 hours and you hardly fetch any content that can be utilized and written in the examination. Rather, you realize this in the later stages, by then you have wasted so much of your time. So इसीलिए judgment on the same-sex marriage, so that becomes one of the biggest issue resolving, right? So that becomes an issue. उस issue के लिए आपको notes बनाना चाहिए. On the other side, you also have events. Now, what are these events? For example, G20 is an event. इस G20 को आपको ज़्यादा stress नहीं करना चाहिए in terms of prelims. Notes बनाते बनाते they miss out current affairs. So all of these questions I'll be addressing them in a very detailed manner. चलिए शुरू करते हैं. Hello and a very warm welcome to the IIShub. In today's video, I'm going to discuss one of the most common questions that every aspirant in their beginning stages has. That is, so how to cover the current affairs and balance the current affairs with that of a static. See, many students in the beginning stages of your preparation, you spend reading these newspapers near about 2 hours to 3 hours and you hardly fetch any content that can be utilized and written in the examination. Rather, you realize this in the later stages, by then you have wasted so much of your time. So इसीलिए in the beginning stages itself, you have to learn how to manage the current affairs with that of a static. So in today's video, I'll be telling you which subjects you have to focus more for the current affairs and which subject you need not stress for the current affairs. And also there are students, they read only static and they fail to integrate that with the current affairs. And notes banate banate, they miss out current affairs. So all of these questions, I'll be addressing them in a very detailed manner. चलिए शुरू करते हैं. The solution to your current affairs lies not in your newspaper, it actually lies in the static syllabus. Yes, you have heard it right. It is not in the newspaper. Newspaper is only supplementing the static topic that is there. And when it comes to examination, near about 70% of your total content is from the static and 25 to 30% is for current affairs. And no doubt, the base is your static and upon this base, you have to apply the current affairs. And the application of current affairs for the prelims is different for the mains, from that of the mains. Prelims ke liye, mostly the questions are asked from the event-based current affairs. And for the mains, it is your issue-based current affairs. Now, what is this issue-based current affairs and event-based current affairs? Let me tell you. See, for example, if you have read polity, and polity padhne ke baad, when you are reading any current affairs articles in the newspaper, that means you are able to understand those articles. And for example, if there is any issues like LGBTQ rights, or else women empowerment, or else right to equality ke upar, like that, there are no immediate solution to that. Rather, they keep on happening again and again. You might see in an article today, a repetition of an article in a further time period, maybe next year also. There are no immediate results, but you will see the result in the maybe 2, 3, 4 years, kabhi bada sa judgment aaya to, that kind of. For example, yesterday there is a judgment on the same-sex marriage. So that becomes one of the biggest issue resolving, right? So that becomes an issue. Us issue ke liye aapko notes banana chahiye. On the other side, you also have events. Now, what are these events? For example, G20 is an event. इस G20 को आपको ज़्यादा stress नहीं करना चाहिए in terms of prelims. You just need to focus on the factual area. When it comes to analysis, you have to focus the analysis for the mains. Other side issues, if you look into other subjects, for example, women empowerment, देखो, climate change, disaster management, likewise, agriculture reforms, labor reforms, these are your issues. So you have to separate issues from that of events. Events like Afghanistan earthquake एक event है, G20 summit एक event है, for example Stockholm conference एक event है, maybe climate conference of parties एक event होता है. So in this manner, please make sure to separate issues and events. And trust me, if you are reading newspaper and you are not in a position to understand any content or that particular article, please make sure to keep that newspaper aside and focus on the static behind the newspaper. So first question is, sir, how do I integrate this current affairs to the static? That is, let me tell you using a practical example here. Now, I'm going to show you a notes that has been made by one of my student named Rana, Satyam Rana. What he does is, he makes the notes in 60 to 65% of the paper and rest of the 30% he utilizes it for current affairs. Here, for example, this is your static notes of plate tectonics theory. Now in the yesterday's and day before yesterday's newspaper and even in today's newspaper, there's an article regarding the Afghanistan earthquake. There were articles that, so why is this Afghanistan the most prone area for earthquakes? So in that case, what you have to do, right here, Afghanistan, it is because once you read the static content of the plate tectonics theory, it becomes very easy for you to understand the earthquake background, right? You know that. Now, especially in the Afghanistan, it is a transform boundary. As and when it is a transform boundary, what you have to do is the western part of the Indian plate is now colliding with the Eurasian plate in a transform manner, right? That is why you have some transform boundaries here. So in that case, this becomes easy for you to revise along with the static rather than you making a separate notes in a separate notes. Maybe example of Afghanistan earthquake might be here. Your static notes might be in a separate book. So it becomes very, very difficult for you to integrate. That's why we always recommend our GS students that please make sure to make the notes in 65 to 70% of the paper and rest of the 30% utilize it for static. Now this is how you utilize it for the events. Likewise, while you make your IR notes, maybe static notes of IR on the other side, any current affairs article if you get to see, please add it here. Now there is another way of making notes for the international relations or issue based articles. ये issue based articles को address कैसे करना चाहिए? Let me show it to you here. Again, this is an article which has been written by one of my student Ketan. इसने notes बनाया. I'll be showing you this notes, how to make this notes for the issues. Now let me tell you one thing. Across the syllabus, before doing this, I want you to make sure that you take the syllabus sheet and identify the issues subject wise. For example, if you go to history, in the history, the current affairs, the total current affairs that are related to the history will be less. Most of the times, history related current affairs are those, इस event को होकर 100 years हो रहा है. Maybe the architecture is in news. So basically, the static content itself will be repeating again and again. आपको current affairs में you have to identify those events and put them in the side. While revising, make sure that हाँ ये चीज important है तो इस साल का एग्जाम में आ सकता है. Like that. Now go to polity. In the polity, yes, there are near about 20 to 30% of current affairs. They keep on appearing new. But most of the content here, again, it is nothing but your static. Maybe governor news mein hai. So governor, you have to go to the governor and read the static content of the governor rather than you reading the newspaper in a detailed manner. Right? So here you also need to understand subject specificity for current affairs. For example, the current affairs will come from majorly science and technology, international relations, economy, as well as some parts of environment. And environment में बहुत सारा ऐसे facts होता है. So conventions हर साल होते ही रहते हैं. Because of that, you have large number of current affairs from environment. Now, you can also pick up examples for ethics, maybe some things that are happening in the current affairs and you can utilize them. So in this manner, while you make the notes for the static itself, you have to make space for the current affairs and integrate that current affairs here. Now, this current affairs making notes is event-based notes making. Coming to the issue-based notes making, see, for suppose if you have identified an issue called development. Okay, development ke related, you might be finding articles in 3 months before newspaper, today be maybe after 3 months. That means there is a never-ending solution to the development. You have multiple opinions. So what you have to do is, take that article. Once you take that article, read this article fully. After reading this article, आपको क्या करना चाहिए? Please make sure to close that newspaper and keep it aside. Only take the keywords from this and then sit back, relax, and whatever you have understood, please make sure to write it here and write it in the point wise. That is when you will be able to understand what you have learned rather than simply writing the same content which is there in the news article. If you are writing the same points here, it is an indication that you are not making notes. Rather, you are compiling the notes. Compilation is different from making notes. Making notes will only help you fetch marks in the exam. Compilation दिखने में बहुत अच्छा लगता है. ठीक है, बाकी लोगों को बहुत impress कर सकते हो आप. Right? Now come back. See, this way, once you have written an issue, इसी issue को आपको क्या करना चाहिए? Maybe 3 months down the line, you might have found a similar kind of article. So read that article again, add those points here. Likewise, all over the year, if you read the newspaper on a daily basis, even then, you will hardly find 200 issues. And these 200 issues, if you read well and understand well, while at the same time you also integrate it with the static content, that becomes very, very easy for you to revise during your examination. And of course, at the end, as I said in the last video, you also have to make short notes. Short notes is always made with small, tiny key points, which is there. That keywords will help you fetch good marks in the examination. Right? Now coming back to कौन सा ऐसा subject है जो मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा focus करना चाहिए? And see, you have to focus on the subjects such as, well, you look into the paper wise. In the paper one, when you look into, you will learn that, see, paper one के अंदर the current affairs are very less from history side, but you have very good current affairs in sociology. Sociology static content will be less and mostly examples as well as reports बहुत ज़्यादा होता है, तो sociology के पास, sociology के ऊपर आपको काम करना चाहिए current affairs के related. Coming to geography, physical geography has very less current affairs, there might be events that might be repeating. So please make sure human geography के लिए current affairs होता है. On the other side, come to paper 2. Paper 2 polity, yes, new judgments that are your current affairs and any appearance of a constitutional body. Mary, you have to go back and read the static. Coming to the international relations, there are large number of current affairs in the international relations, and this is where you'll get to learn new content every now and then. So you have to focus more on international. Coming to the next paper, that is your GS3, economy has current affairs. Science and technology has current affairs. Disaster management static होता है, but लेकिन examples you have to fetch from the current affairs itself. Likewise, environment, it has lot of current affairs every year. New content will be coming, so you have to focus more on the paper 3. And coming to paper 4, paper 4 के अंदर एक अच्छी तरीका ये है, while you read the newspaper, you look into the syllabus and attitude, aptitude, case studies, as well as values. These are the major areas where you have to get the current affairs for. For that, while you read any crisis in the newspaper, please make sure to utilize that crisis as an example. Do not search here and there for the current affairs. The solution to the current affairs is in your static, and once you read the static, your current affairs is a cakewalk. Right? The same time which you have spent near about reading 2 to 3 hours in the beginning, which was considered to be a time waste, when you complete your static, you will utilize the same newspaper for fetching the top rank. I hope this is one of the best strategies which will work for you. The IIAShub has given more than 1000 plus selections in the last 5 years. And we at the IIAShub firmly believes that the youth has great potential and they have every right to reach their destinations. But कई सारे ऐसे students हैं, because of their financial constraints, they are not able to reach that destination. Not just financial constraints, अगर आपको knowledge constraints है, या directionless हो गया आप, या आपको mentorship ना मिलने के कारण आप अपनी मंजिल ना पहुंच पा रहे, तो एक IIAShub आपकी और आपकी सक्सेस के बीच में एक ब्रिज बनना चाहता है. So that's why we at the IIAShub are going to come up with a scholarship test. We will conduct the scholarship test, and based on your performance, you will be given the scholarship. There is a link that is given in the description. Please make sure to register there and take the scholarship.